James, welcome. The market rendering its verdict and saying Norwegian has been the ship to pick, at least from the lows. Are they going to be the leader from now on?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question, and you cited how much those stocks are up since their bottoms. I also think it's worth noting that versus 2019 levels, we're still looking at sort of down 60%, call it, relative to an S&P that's up 40.
Wow.
So these have been massive underperformers. And if you think about, what few categories have left, have still not entirely reopened, right? The cruise industry is one of the last remaining pure play reopening stories. And so I think there is an opportunity there. Certainly, you brought up Norwegian. The case in favor of Norwegian is that they do target a more upscale consumer, higher income levels, certainly than what you're going to see at a Carnival. And if you think about both the upside and the downside scenario, I think investors generally feel more comfortable about the outlook for the higher end consumer than certainly the average consumer, much less the lower end consumer.
Sure. But I like your point about how these stocks are still down, in some cases 60% from pre-pandemic levels. Why is that? Is that balance sheet? In other words, do they have a debt hangover from dealing with the pandemic? Or is it pure demand where we just aren't back yet to those levels and questioning whether we ever will be?
Sure. Yeah, a definite yes in terms of the first question, and remains to be seen with respect to the second. By our math, Carnival has diluted their earnings power by about 50%.
Wow. Since
prior to the pandemic. That's a combination of increased interest expense as well as added equity. And the number for Norwegian is a little bit higher than that. And so it's going to take a while for them to get back to pre-pandemic earnings power, even if they're able to get back to pre-pandemic demand, which gets us into that second question, right? I think there's a lot of concern that there's a segment of the population that ultimately won't get back into cruising. And so as we look to this summer, we're hoping to get some answers to some of those questions.
James, I know you said you're looking to this summer. We have to look at this spring right now. We're seeing COVID variants rise again. How big of an impact is this going to be on the cruise industry just long term? I mean, I think a lot of us thought just a few weeks ago we were kind of past the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's the $1 million question, right? I mean, the good news is if you look at the impact on travel generally, but certainly the cruise space from Delta to Omicron, the dip, so to speak, was much more short-lived with Omicron, which I think is at least some evidence that the consumer broadly, especially the U.S. consumer, is over it to a large degree. I'd be surprised if this most recent variant plays a major role in terms of scaling back cruise demand and bookings. But I think at the end of the day, this is something that consumers are going to have to learn to live with as we move forward.
All right, James Hardiman from Citi. We appreciate the insight.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.